Greetings. Welcome to Speak Nerd and Enter.
So he says, okay, let's blow this thing and go home. And that's how I met Mark.
Yeah.
Not all winners.
Good times at the glory hole.
Still trying to wash his taste out of his mouth.
Oh my God,
anyone,
gentlemen!
well, if any of you understands where that reference is from, which is why we're rolling right into Star Wars news and what came out this week. And full disclosure, I am a stockholder.
Sean is a subsidiary of Disney.
For Disney.
Disney. But they're coming out with new movies. What was it? 4 movies, I think, something like that.
It was 3 for sure.
3
for each of the eras. One even further back than Old Republic, going back 25,000 years. Supposed to be about the first Jedi, the one who discovers the Force, or kind of codifies it, I suppose. But I wonder. I'm actually kind of interested in that one. I'll be honest with you. I'm kind of interested in that. To see who's going to be in it, who's going to be, putting the project together and all that. But I always found that era interesting. I wonder, however, if it's actually going to be anything to do with, like Knights of the Old Republic, and talking about not that era, because that was only, 5,000 years before, but the Rakata, which were the empire that was there before the Republic and the Sith and all that stuff, and if they're going to have anything to do with that. Unfortunately, if it does, that means we'd be taking another trip to Tatooine. but it would be Tatooine when it was a water planet.
Ooh, a billion worlds, and we always end up on this same backwater.
Yeah.
Only 25,000 years to dry that place out. They must have really hosed it up.
Yeah, in the game, I don't know. Do you remember the game? Did you remember
Vaguely.
The story that was in there? Remember the
Vaguely.
Sand People had a like a mythology around the Rakata, and the Rakata were the reason that the planet dried up and all that stuff. So, yeah. But that one actually.
Well, I know less about that one, but they want to do one set 15 years after. The current movies with Rey, and I was like, I know a lot of people are like, look, we all wish those 3 movies never happened, right?
Yeah.
I get it. So Disney has a choice. They can be like, oh, we messed up so bad, we're going to erase these 3 movies. That's never going to happen. I don't see them selling that. And so they're like, okay, what are we going to do to fix it? 15 years, bring Rey back, put some competent storytellers in there, try and raise the Titanic. That's my thought. And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm here for it. These movies suck and you can't get rid of them, right? And I wish you could, but you can't. I wish you'd never made them. I wish you'd, put some different directors in charge. All that is water under the bridge. We can't fix that. So this strikes me as like, okay, do you write off Star Wars forever or just go backwards and play in the past? Well, that's not the way you keep making movies in the future, is constantly going backwards. So, like, I'm here for it. I had no issues with Rey, with the actress, Daisy Ridley, playing Rey. Yes, the character was, a little Mary Sue, and it's super powerful and not particularly well written. But I don't blame her for that, in the same way that I don't blame Hayden Christensen for Anakin's performance. You know what I mean? He was written that way. Okay, and you guys can have your grudges, but anyway, I'm here for it. Like, I want them to get the ship right, because gosh, you're just mishandling Star Wars on so many fronts. I mean, stop it.
I would respectfully disagree with a bunch of that, because you still got.
Kelly, I want you to disrespectfully disagree.
Okay, I disrespect.
Lean into it.
That was the largest amount of crap I've heard come out of somebody's mouth in the last 72 hours. No, I look at it. I was sort of. I'm really sort of sour on the whole thing. I mean, those 3 movies, I agree with you. They should not have been made. They were awful. The writing was not good. I also agree that the Rey character, I don't hate the Rey character, and I certainly think the actress did the best that could be done with what she was given to work with. I mean, you're given a 5-pound bag of crap. You're not gonna, build the Taj Mahal out of that. I mean, you try as you might, it's just not gonna happen. But my
little poop Mahal.
No, but my big complaint is you've still got a number of the leadership team that allowed that to happen still in charge.
Yeah,
so why am I supposed to now expect that they've seen the light and come around? And I'm now, I was a fence post sitter before, and now I'm clearly on the other side of the fence, and they're gonna have to really prove it to make it worthwhile. I mean, I've seen what they've done in other series, and I'm not wowed.
Okay, so to restate what you just said, Kelly, you agreed with everything that I said. You just don't trust the leadership team that's currently in charge. So I think what I said was not the most crap you've ever heard out of anybody's mouth.
It was.
It sounded like you agreed 100% with what I was saying. No. I mostly agree with what you're saying, especially the part where you agreed with me.
So here's my take on it, and it's strangely enough, I agree a little bit with Mark and more with Kelly, but I do have some sympathy for what Mark's saying. So I would like sympathy because it's sad, but it's funny. I see this tendency for people that they always want to fix the problem and not fix the blame. The blame needs to be fixed in this case. You need to put the blame on somebody, and somebody needs to pay for wrecking a multi-billion-dollar property. But no one's gonna. We all know, based on past experience, they're either gonna shuffle people off quietly, and they're never
fail
gonna
upward.
Pay the price. Yeah, fail upward, or they'll fail upward. Yeah, correct. As far as this 3 movies that are coming out, if you and this also delves into the TV series, the Ahsoka TV series. In the Ahsoka TV series, in the promo that they showed at that Star Wars celebration, they used the Veil of the Force symbol in her title, which is that circle with a line going up out of it. I believe that's the symbol of the Veil of the Force. I'm mistrusting now. The optimistic people would say, okay, this is where they're gonna make the entire sequel trilogy a sub-universe, and they're just going to pay attention to it when they want to appease 1 or 2 people, and they're going to go and they'll have multiple universes that diverge. That's one optimistic theory. I'm not totally pessimistic, but I don't trust them. So I think they would be very much willing to put that symbol in that title to kind of as a bait and switch, right? It's like, oh, well, yes, we're going to have the Veil of the Force, but actually this other timeline is going to be the sub-timeline, and the sequel trilogy is going to be the main timeline, right? And that's the one we're going to concentrate on. So I don't trust them to do the right thing. The right thing to do would be to take the failure of the sequel trilogy on the chin, admit it, say this was a failure, and it's not the fault of the actors or actresses. It's the fault of the writers and producers.
Right.
They did not know how to manage the property, the wealth of goodwill that they were given. And they decided that they were going to use it for agenda-driven id poll, whatever. Instead of trying to
squandered the only time we're ever going to get all those actors back in the same time in the same movie. Right.
Some of them are dead. Some of them are old and going insane. And some of them have always been insane and are just showing it for the first time. So,
R2,
R2D2. Yeah. Kenny Baker, rest in power, brother. But the point is that I want Star Wars to be good. I'm still a fan of the property. It's the fact that what they're doing with the property, it's just very similar to what happened with Tolkien's stuff. I still love Tolkien's work, but
Rings of Power is not respecting.
No, yeah, I've got nothing for it. So I've got no time for it, and it's getting the same. Unfortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, like they do things every once in a while, like Andor, where it's like, oh, maybe there's a chance. There's one sane person still left in the room, and then they do 3 things.
I feel like we are all in an abusive relationship with Star Wars.
Yes,
it keeps promising to change. It's going to get better. I swear this was the last time. And
Yeah.
then they give us this season of The Mandalorian.
It's like they've been punching me in the face, punching down on me in the face for an hour. And then as soon as I lift my chin up, they're like, "Oh, I'm sorry, baby. Here's Andor." And then they just start hitting again. It just keeps on coming.
Yeah.
And this, like Sean said, with the history series, that sounds like it has potential. They're doing a second season of Andor. Whether they do it to the same quality as the first season, questionable. They're doing the Daisy Ridley sequel trilogy movie, supposedly. Now, these were announced at Star Wars Celebration, right? That does not mean that they will happen, because
right.
The guy in charge of Disney now, what is it? It's not Iger, is it Zaslav? Or who the hell is in charge of it now? I keep.
Do we care? Yeah. Do we care?
Yeah, I
mean, some of us aren't shareholders, so
they keep. Well, neither am I, but they keep firing them so quickly. I can't figure it out. The point is that those people are the ones that approve everything, and apparently they've put a price cap on all future properties. Whereas before, the brand had so much goodwill and potential, they were willing to spend infinite amount of dollars. Right now, he's like, well, every movie is only going to be $150 million, and every TV show is capped at $75 million, and there's no flexibility because we're losing money hand over fist.
Yeah.
Will that change anything? I don't know. I don't know how well they'll stick to that, because they seem to like do some creative accounting and draw money out of places they probably shouldn't.
But see, that's the creative problem, Rich, is what you're hitting on there. These folks, I mean, Disney, major corporation, and this is going to ensure that we never get the Disney advertising on this channel. But
we'll see about that. Don't forget, I have a vote.
But to them, all of this is just dollars and cents. It's a line on an Excel spreadsheet somewhere, and that's all. I mean, they're not looking at it to tell a story. They're like, how do we get butts and seats to pay for this film? And that's it. Lucas had a story he wanted to tell, and granted, that story had some significant flaws, and he was blessed to have some people around him that brought that to fruition. But Disney doesn't have a story to tell. They're just, to them, it's dollars and cents, and in many ways, we as the consumer, I mean, our hands are tied. And you're right, Mark. It's an abusive relationship. We've learned, we've changed. No, you haven't. I mean, since the original movies, what have you put out that's been truly significant to this universe? We've talked about this before. Rogue One, right?
Which wasn't significant to the universe at all.
No, but it was.
You know what I mean?
Like, it was a story.
It was a compelling story, but it wasn't like, oh wow, that's new territory. That we knew.
Right.
They stole the plans and got him to Leia, and that's where this thing whole kicked off. But that was like the high bar. Since the original trilogy.
I fully expect an Andor season 2 that they'll have Cassian walk around and find some baby Ewok that he then carries about for the rest of the series.
Well, so here's the thing. That's the thing. Go ahead, Kelly or Sean.
I think what they're going to do with Andor, and this is not from any
inside baseball that you got as a shareholder.
This is not from the frozen head of Disney himself, but I think what they're going to do is leave Andor as it is, because they got what critical acclaim and success they had with it. They're just going to let that be, because that's all they know how to do. Is try to be a sounding board and echo chamber for what they think the success was on the first go round. So that's why in Mandalorian you have now Grogu jumping every episode, doing his stupid little flip.
Do it again.
You saw Yoda do that in the other movie.
Do it again.
So therefore, everyone in the race.
Did you notice Yoda's flips were actually flips? When Baby Yoda does it, it's like it's a cartoon character who stays exactly straight, just does a weird wheelie in the air as he.
It's like
that's because he's so new at it.
At the actor.
That's what they did.
Yeah, let's throw this puppet and go. Woo!
Yeah, they had such success with the female part of the audience because of Grogu.
Right.
They were like, no, he's not staying with Luke. You get his little ass over here into, in The
Yeah,
Mandalorian.
we got to sell some
3.
merch and get some viewers.
Right. He's got to be back with The Mandalorian because all the women love the grumpy old guy with the sprightly, young, little, old-looking man thing, Grogu, and have him jump around a lot because people thought that was really cute. He's got to jump around a lot. He's got to do his little run thing, a lot. And he's got to make his little, ooh, ah, ooh, his little noises all the time. As much of that as you can possibly get in there, right?
No squeezy.
Right, no squeeze, and get the other little things in there. And he loves the little things. It's all just cuteness overload for all the women and all that stuff. So that's what they think made it successful, not realizing that the thing that made it successful and so important was there was consequence at the end. There was drama at the end. There was a sense of, loss, but this is a needed loss. This is how it has to go, and it's heartbreaking at the same time, and all that. All those things that brought out this array of emotions that made it special in that moment. They thought, nope, got to have the baby back and all that. With Andor, I think they're going to let that be because what made it so successful was something they couldn't understand, right? So why
human emotion?
Well, they don't understand the whole thing about Grogu either. They don't understand either of them. So I think they're just going to let it alone and say, you do your thing and we'll see how that goes.
Right. So two things. Like number one, going back to, hey, we're going to spend $150 million on a movie. And if we get it right, we're going to make $1 billion. Right. Because that's all it is. I spent money on this movie. And, some of the famous horror movies have been made on ridiculously small budgets. It hits the right audience. It's making a ton of money. Right. So there's some profitability in these movies, whether it's small or big. And so from that standpoint, like, I get it. You want to spend $150 million on a Disney movie. Cool. We don't have money to throw at the problem. Let's unlock creativity because creativity trumps money every time. There's been a lot of really good movies made on not great budgets because they applied that creativity. So from Disney's standpoint, like, I don't care if you're like, here, make this movie and it's just a line on a spreadsheet. Great. Then leave the people alone who are making the movie to make their movie, because what you want to get is the creative team is responsible for it. But when you get now, I need you to insert this message. I need you to insert this Baby Yoda. I need you to insert this. I need you to, leave out this. Now we're interfering with the creativity, which is what I feel like Kathleen Kennedy's been all over screwing up the sequel trilogy.
So let's touch on that very quickly, because this is what I think the primary problem that they have with the Star Wars universe is. And it's, you mentioned Kathleen Kennedy, but she's just a symptom of a greater disease. They need to stop crapping on half of their audience. And I will give the evidence out, starting with the Force Awakens. They decided that no matter what, males were going to be weak and females were going to be strong, regardless of how much sense it made, regardless of where they needed to be inserted in the plot. And let me tell you, there are plenty in the Star Wars universe. There's plenty of strong female characters. They're great. I think they're awesome.
Leia is the original from the first movie. She was great.
The original in the novel series, Luke Skywalker's wife in the novel series, she's a baller, but at the same time, what they're doing is they are doing it artificially. So instead of having a hero's arc, which we've discussed in the past, where this person has gone through their trials and tribulations and now has become an equal, if not superior to the males of the series in some circumstances, and like that all people are, lesser in other situations, they now have an artificial method of, we're going to have a show called, so let's start with the sequel trilogy. Rey Skywalker, right? Or Rey Palpatine, Skywalker.
Spoilers.
Yeah, whatever. It's years old now. But she, everyone's like, oh, she's a Mary Sue. She is, but at the same time, the reason why people feel that about her is that they inserted her with no consequences, no hero's journey, to be the bestest thing ever. Then we'll go to the next series. They didn't do that with the first season of The Mandalorian. The first season of The Mandalorian, they had Gina Carano in there, who they don't like anymore. Gina Carano never stole the show. She never took over the show. She was an equal or co-equal to the Mando every time she appeared, and they worked as a team, which made her organically a good character within the series, but the show was still about the Mandalorian. Now, every series after that, it has been girl boss replaces main character of the show. Mandalorian season 3, you've got Bo-Katan.
Agreed. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You pause, bro.
Yeah, you're
Bo. He was saying Bo Duke now is the
Bo and Luke Duke. Some good old boys.
had been.
They never mean no harm.
Princess Leia and the female Inquisitor. The show was all about them. It wasn't about Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan was a secondary character in his own show. Book of Boba Fett. The story was about his henchmen. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about, the henchmen and all the women in the series. That is the Kathleen Kennedy effect you're talking about, where she said the Force is female. But they've done it in such a way that it's now become, they've alienated 51%.
It's a ham-fisted, inelegant way that does not come off. But when we look at Sarah Connor or Ripley or Leia from the original Star Wars trilogy,
Lara Croft, I mean, you go on and on.
Like there's ways to do that well. Or what is it, Mad Max Fury Road? Like there's plenty of ways to do a competent, badass female protagonist, and there's ways not to. But even beyond that, like some of the storytelling structure, some of the structure that they're using in the Mandalorian is what comes to mind. You're like this latest episode with, King Lizzo or whatever. They're like, we've got this amazing planet on the outer rim, but our cops don't carry any guns. We don't have our own military to protect ourselves. Like in the Star Wars universe, like freighters are armed. You know what I mean? You can't fly from one place to the other without worried about, like it's a dangerous universe, and you expect me to believe these guys just showed up, set up a planet, and now everybody is so rich and so lazy that if they don't have these droids to run the whole society, it's gonna fall apart. Because you got a room full of dudes down there running the droids, like, so some people are working. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And then go back to the new Mando planet or whatever, I forget which one that's called. Like, one ship shows up and 10 people that live in the city all go hide out in the outskirts, like, oh no, we need someone to save us. I'm like, who doesn't have some kind of like defense plan? You can't, like, you know what I mean? Like, everybody walks around armed in this universe. Like, none of this makes any structural sense. Like, who would live there? It'd be like living in England or something. It's crazy.
Well, Planet Lizzo was good, and they hammered you over the head with it because it was a direct democracy. They said that about
4 times.
Yeah. So, and the truth of the matter is, and Christopher Lloyd actually says this, if I destroy these droids or turn them loose, they don't know how to work. Our society will fall apart, So
which sounds like you're trying to make a social commentary, which is what science fiction is known for. Like that's part of the reason science fiction exists, is to be like, hey, what if this happened, or what if we, what if a society chose this, and we can explore that in science fiction. So that makes sense. But this was so terribly explored. Like you didn't give me any kind of a resolution. You know what I mean? It's like, so why was Christopher Lloyd sabotaging a couple of droids? Like that never made, like, what was his end game? And he's like, if I press this button, it's over. And I'm like, well, you have to sleep sometime.
This whole season felt more like Scooby-Doo, and it's just not. It's not. I mean, really, it has. It's it's old man Potter who's the one behind this. And the feeling that I get from it is not at all like the other 2 seasons.
Right.
And it was in the other 2 seasons. It was a little bit of Lone Wolf and very small bit of Lone Wolf and Cub, and kind
first
of
season,
and kind of the wandering gunslinger kind of thing. That kind of stuff. And this one has just been, from the very first episode, it was like you were going on a Disney ride, like you were going to the park, and they had a bunch of day characters playing all these different ones, and you're going through there and seeing them and going through some like little sit down ride thing where you're watching the pirates come in and shoot until they get blown up, and it's all that. And it's been very frustrating. And I hope I hope, because I've heard, and who hasn't, that the ratings have been down drastically for this season. Hopefully that brings some of that to the fore and they understand that.
Yeah,
it
but-
feels like a
but-
cameo fest also. They're like, let's put
Oh yeah.
famous people in Hollywood.
Well,
now they get their
that's-
shot at it to be in a
That's
Star
patched.
Wars thing.
That's
Yeah.
because it's easier than having good writing. If you don't have good writing, then you throw in, like Gilligan's Island, right? Or any other sitcom that really wasn't written very well.
Yeah.
But that's kind of the A-lister
That's
for that.
patching the
You
road,
see,
not
Anna?
fixing it.
that goes back to my original point, though. Like, if the rating, and Mark's point, really, if the ratings are down and we're hoping they get better, I mean, that's sort of the definition of the abusive relationship aspect of this, is that, okay, if they haven't learned by this point and they're on season 3, are those ratings really going to make a significant difference? Are people really going to
Well,
make a
No, but 1 and
turnaround?
2 were good. I think they're victims of their own success. They're like, oh, we got a thing that's working. Awesome. Let's turn that up to 11. And they're
Right.
not realizing that turning Grogu up to 11 and putting in, cameo, and doing some things, it's like they're throwing a bunch of things in the blender and hoping to make a good tasting smoothie, and it ain't working.
See,
Because
I
they
think
don't recognize what they had.
Yeah.
Well, they don't
understand it.
They don't understand what actually made it good. And what made it good was the emotional content that came along with the characters like Grogu and so forth.
Correct.
And if you want to expand on that, you don't bring Grogu back and do the Three's Company. Everything's back to the way it was at the end of the episode thing. The way you do it is you have these occurring stories with Luke, with Grogu, and the Mandalorian
Story
doing his
B.
thing. What's that?
Story A and story B, and we put them
yeah,
together.
and you do those things and explore them there, and you also raise at the same time the angst amongst the audience, or some of the audience, for will they meet again, and what's that going to be like? Kind of like Game of Thrones, with Jon Snow and Bran, and is Bran gonna finally get to see him? And they're right there. All they have to do is see each other. But then Bran, no, you can't do that, Bran. You got to leave, otherwise it's going to be that whole thing.
Right.
That's how you play those kinds of stories out. And they don't understand that, or don't care. What they're seeing is the dollar signs for merchandising for the parks and that sort of thing.
Yeah,
I think
I'm sorry, go ahead. Exactly.
Some
Yeah,
people-
I couldn't have said it better, Rich.
Try that
You
again.
were silent for the first part of that. Say that again,
Yeah,
Rich.
don't say anything else.
Okay,
That was perfect.
I think you're giving them. I think you're giving them too much credit for it just being a profitability thing. I think they're the people that are writing this, the younger writers and producers that are doing this. They're stunted emotionally. They don't understand what makes a good hero story because they don't understand what a
I'm
hero
not
is.
even thinking about them. What I'm thinking about, the things that actually drive it, isn't them. The things that actually drive it are the executives above, the marketing people and that sort of thing.
But
And
the executives
they don't have any creative ability that way. So they don't understand what makes a story, what makes a project, what makes a piece of art, or any of that really good. And it takes someone who's really special that way to have an inkling for someone who does. And so what they do is they focus in on the thing they want, which is, of course, the dollars and that sort of thing. So they mine that part as much as
I agree with you. I won't forget you, Kelly. But I agree with you. The executives they just care about the dollars and cents. The problem is that they get these people that give them they're like, oh yeah, I understand how this works. You saw it with the two guys that they hired for Game of Thrones, who'd never produced anything, but they talked a good game, and they said, oh well, we'll make the 8th season great.
But they're
but they produced 6 seasons of some of the best television ever.
Yeah, but they're also part of the executive side.
Right.
And so the art that they followed had a very defined blueprint for the first, 6 seasons.
That's true. They weren't
Then when
creatively
they
in charge
ran out,
of the story for those 6 seasons.
So
I stand corrected.
When they ran out of that, you see how it went so far off the rails because they didn't truly understand what it was that made it good, or didn't care. Either or.
That's the point that I want to make. I don't think it's that they don't understand. As I'm sitting here listening to you guys talk, it's coming into my mind. It's not that whether or not they understand. They don't care.
No.
They don't care.
Yeah.
And Sean, to your point, the executive bit that controls it is influencing through their hiring, through the people they put in control of a project, which is where the producers and the writers and all of those come in. I mean, no one aspect of this is mutually exclusive. All of these things are working in concert
Yeah, they
to
are.
create what is really a subpar product. And they just want to produce their thing. They want to make this acceptable to everybody, which means nothing bad can truly ever happen. They want to sell product, which means we have to have the cutesy little thing do cutesy things every episode.
Yeah.
If Andor doesn't come up with something cutesy, I'll fall off my couch when I watch it.
I can only hope. I can only hope, because the droid. I keep thinking back to the sad.
They're gonna have what's his name, Skarsgård. Every episode, he's going to do the Grogu bounce. He's going to do the little flip through the air.
But that's a good trick.
Yeah, this is a great trick. But I have to say, Kelly, that reminds me, and it's something I was thinking about when we were talking about this in Andor. One of the things that made it great was the sad droid, the droid that had emotional difficulties because its master wasn't there anymore. That part of that story was just a small detail that I thought was just so well handled. That it's like the droid was sad. And it's following him around because it's scared, and it's like, oh, don't leave the house. That was very. It's like, oh, this droid has actual it's developed emotions,
right?
It was something that
and contrast what's going on in Andor with what's going on in that last episode of The Mandalorian, right? In Andor, there was an economy. They were, taking apart ships and doing, like you could see what the business of the people was that ran on. Whereas this last issue of The Mandalorian, it's like, everybody's rich and we all got leisure time, but they don't explain why or how or any of that. Andor, it felt very grounded. The people felt like they were doing things. They built some, the world felt real. They're like, oh, prominent citizens get their name on a brick, and we're gonna, remember them by doing this as part of the, like those little details. There was none of that. There was some fancy CGI. They got a cool subway system that you can get in, and it zips you around.
Just like Epcot, it's a monorail.
Right. It just, but that just struck me as like so third grade level, bullshit storytelling. Whereas Andor was like, okay, this is how you tell the story with more than just the words on the script.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will mention, you mentioned, the society and about how they would, they stole that from the Matrix, right? That's the story of the Matrix, that the robots took over and human beings stopped working and they depended on the AI to do stuff. And then the AI woke up and said, we don't need these humans. Let's turn them into batteries. They stole it straight from the Matrix. It's so dumb. No, but nobody's mentioned it yet. That's like, oh, we took that from the Matrix, and they did.
Exclusive here on Speak Nerd and Enter.
Yes.
Well, let's hope.
In here, exclusive.
Let's hope, because there's a number of other things that have happened this week, of course. But let's hope they get some of it. Right.
Yeah, here's hoping. Again, right now we're still in the midst of this abusive relationship. It at the wall. Star Wars, I hope you change. I hope you become the man that I fell in love with as a kid.
It would be great. I'll tell you what. It would be great if Ahsoka.
I love my dead gay son.
I would be great if Ahsoka was good, and that first Jedi movie was good.
Yeah. Like I'm looking forward to all of that. When I read the press release, I'm like, oh, that sounds good. But then again, every project up until now, I've looked at it and said, oh man, that's cool. I can't wait. This is going to be great. Only to be disappointed by, in many cases, the project when it was delivered. But this all seems really, really depressing. Let's move on to something that is not depressing, and that is the Warhammer 40K universe. One
more thing. The Ahsoka thing. The only thing that's refreshing.
No, I said we were moving on.
Let me finish. Let me get it out. The Ahsoka thing. The girl boss is right up front. They're not fronting anything on it. That's not a bait and switch. It's like, no, she's the woman. She's going. And I'm like, I'm fine with that.
Well, also that was an organic. You were talking about organic growth. That was an organically grown character. Yes. That's one that you saw. Actually, you saw her from birth. Yeah. With the new Star Wars Tales and Tales of the Jedi and all that. You saw her birth. You saw all that. You saw her grow up. You saw her learn with Anakin and all that stuff. So that's
a Filoni thing, right? Dave Filoni.
Yeah, that was a Filoni thing, which is not always a hit, but he does enough hits that it makes up for the stuff that's not
Yeah,
good. Much
more
like,
hits than misses. That's for sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
well, much like Lucas, when he hits pretty good,
Right.
and when he doesn't, you're willing to forgive it. You know.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Now, the big
Go ahead.
news about
15.
Warhammer 40K. This is amazing news. They're having a crossover with Game of Thrones.
What?
Where Jorah Mormont has now joined the Imperial Army.
You heard it here first.
He has. Yes,
You heard it here first.
He's come back. He's wearing the black from
I agree.
10,000 years ago, and now the old bear is leading the Dark Angels. And I, for one, love that that look, that story, the fact that it has to be a nod to him.
You glossed over it. What model exactly
Of
are you
course,
talking
we're
about?
speaking of the
for
return
those-
of Lionel Johnson.
That's right.
Lionel, I'm not sure who you're talking about. I'm talking about
Jared Mormont. I think he looks more like Sean Connery personally, but
Sean Connery. No, Mark.
Mhm.
Did that not look like, you saw the pictures?
He looks
right?
like
I
him
did.
too.
I did.
He
Did
does.
that not look like Jorah Mormont?
It
The
did.
guy-
Yes.
Yeah.
That very much reminded me of
Yeah.
him.
That
He
was
does.
him.
I agree.
Yeah, that was him. And you know what? I think that's great. I think that's
Okay.
awesome.
So I know he's coming back. I know he's got a great new model.
He is back.
Have they said what he's been doing for 10,000 years?
Well, they've alluded to the fact that he's actually been doing things for
There's a
a
book.
while.
Okay.
Yeah,
Because he's
there's a-
older physically. Like he looks older than the
Yeah.
previous model from the Horse
Yeah,
Heresy.
well,
So
remember-
he's not been in stasis or something like.
Correct. He's been asleep for a long time because he got wounded in the fight with Luther. And the Watchers in the Dark took him away and like zip-locked him or something. And then he woke up and started doing things, started trying to call back, I guess, the Fallen and all the other Dark Angels and all that. But he's been doing some things that they're supposedly going to elucidate in the next book.
Okay.
And that's going to be what were the other one? Why am I forgetting the names of the other ones now? The whole
Luther?
thing. No. I'm talking about the books they've had with the one with the most recent one was the one with Angron. They have that Demon Prince, they have Angron, and they have Abaddon.
Oh, Vashtor.
the-
Vashtor, Angron, and Abaddon.
Vashtor, thank you. Yes.
The Arcs of Omen.
Yeah, the Arcs of Omen story. So they have those books. Each of them has a book describing
Yes.
what they're doing, and when I say book, I'm talking about campaign type thing. And,
Yeah,
you
for
know,
the
There's a novel
40K
too.
game.
right.
Yeah, yeah.
And so the next one coming up is supposed to be the one for the Lion.
Yes, the Lion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's
they're
also
supposed
a
to talk
novel.
about it there.
There's also a novel coming for
Yeah.
what
This
he was
is my
doing.
shocked face.
Yeah. Well, I'm looking forward to the novel. I'm sure we'll be reviewing it, but it does look. I'm very hyped for Lionel Johnson. He's quite the dashing figure as a miniature, and he's got a very storied history. But his chapter's messed up, man. The Dark Angels are a mess.
Well, they were always a mess. You know,
Yes.
they were always
Yeah.
a mess.
And then
but-
hot on the heels of that 40K news, they've also announced 10th edition.
Yeah.
So, and I've been watching some of the previews for that. So there's a lot of cool things going on in 40K. So I guess the new box set is going to have Space Marines and Tyranids in it. So I guess we're done with the Necrons. Ugh,
We're not
We're
done.
never done with the Necrons.
That's
We're
right.
never done. With
I know.
And
Actually, part of their nature.
and the Tyranids, they're going back to the Tyranids.
Yes.
Which is, they're cycling the enemies.
Yeah.
Each
Yeah.
one, they're
Orcs will be back
Hey, this
eventually."
one's got another attack coming. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. But so far, I'm liking the previews and what they're doing with kind of the new rule set and some things. It's a preview, so to be determined. But I do kind of like how they're simplifying some of the army selection, and now you got the cards that give you the stats for the thing versus like we started out in Rogue Trader where you'd literally have the rule book and 5 white dwarfs spread
right.
out because the rules were everywhere. You know what I mean? And it kind of feels the same now where there's so many rules and cards and
Yep.
there's a lot of pieces to playing the game, and so simplifying that without making it simplistic is their goal, and I hope they pull it off. But like I say, I've been playing Song of Ice and Fire, the miniature game, and I've been playing a little bit of Marvel Crisis Protocol, And it's nice having the cards that give you all of the info as opposed to having to flip through a book and find the right spot for everything.
Yeah, they're definitely engaging in best practices that they're seeing in other places, which back in the day they didn't do. They were we all know that they were reluctant to adopt anything that was a good idea back in the day from anyone else. It had to come from inside, or it wasn't.
Right.
You rejected it.
And from England.
Yes. Well.
Yeah.
But that goes. But it's a whole different company now. They've definitely they've made strides in just how they present the business. And I think that what you're saying about the simplification, Mark, that's the prepping for the new audience they're going to get from their media properties going to film and TV. They're expecting a big blast of new people coming in. Like, what is this thing? Because when they see Henry Cavill,
I wonder if that's
they're doing it because 40K was featured on a recent South Park episode.
It was. I think that's part of it.
That was great, wasn't it?
That
was.
That was great.
What is this?
They even mentioned Celestine and all that.
That's right. What are you guys doing?
I think at one point they mentioned Mortal Wounds, and I was like, "Oh man, this is nerdtastic. These guys actually play this."
Yeah,
yeah.
There was some deep cuts. They weren't
Wounds
and Space Marines, I don't think. I know they had a Sisters Army, and I forget what the other one was, but it was like, okay, these are.
His father with this isn't spring break. What is this?
Yeah, what are you guys 40K? Doing? And the thing is, I would have been perfectly happy to spend spring break playing Warhammer all weekend. That would have been awesome.
And then his mom comes home and yells at him, "What did I tell you about playing Warhammer on the kitchen table?" Yeah, that'd be a big kitchen table.
Yeah.
Yeah, normally you can't play games on there. You'd have to have something. That'd have to be a really big one.
Well, they got a big family. There's 4 kids. There's 4 people in the family.
Yeah.
But for me, 10th edition, great and all that. That's fine. But I'm not into the actual gaming part. I like the soft bits, not the crunchy rules crap. I can flip a coin anywhere, right? But I wonder if they're actually going to get a push of new players because of the media. I don't know if that's actually going to be the case.
I think it has to be, doesn't it? I mean, people are going to be curious about it who've never seen it before.
Who's going to know? That's good. I mean, just being curious about it and seeing the movie, seeing a TV show, that sort of thing. That doesn't equate with, hey, I want to paint miniatures and I want to go and roll dice and do all that. Yeah. There's a big difference between those two. That's quite a leap. How many people who went and saw Lord of the Rings went and, jumped into the hobby and started painting and stuff who weren't already doing that?
Right, but that number is also not zero. I'd be willing to bet there are some people who were maybe they play role-playing games or they play another miniature game, and they're like, oh, cool, let me play this one.
I will say that curiosity is going to butt up against the price. You're going to say, oh, what's this 40K thing about? And then you're like, how much is it?
Oh, that's the price of the thing.
But remember, they're also an IP company. They have video games. They have novels.
Comics. If you're telling me the video game, okay. But if you're telling me about the tabletop part, like Kelly said, you got the money part and you have the time part and you have the frustration of you're painting your miniature and it doesn't look at all.
Yeah, I'm thinking about it as just a global IP company, that they're going to have more people engaging with their IP is my point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree with that. There's the people who are curious, but that number is going to get smaller, the people who engage.
Right,
how do they engage is a fair point.
But you'll measure the number of people that go see a movie in the millions, right? So a movie comes out, millions of people are going to go see it.
Yeah.
What percentage of that need to adopt the hobby? 1,000 new people in 40K is a lot. You see what I'm saying? Like that's in the tabletop gaming spot.
Which is why I'm thinking it's probably going to be more like 3.
More than 3. It'll be more than 3.
It will be more than 3.
And it could be several thousand people that'll be, moving.
1% of a million is 1% of 5 million people.
I don't know. You'd have to, with that equation, with the information I have to work that problem out, I'm not sure I could give you a verifiable answer.
I can. The answer is 493.7. That is how many new people are going to enter the Warhammer 40K hobby.
I came up with 3. And I came up with 3. And I think mine is how do I want to put is right.
But I would like to
And
say
you're-
that if,
You're incorrect.
I think mine is
I do
correct.
actually respectfully disagree.
if you get 3 more people to buy a Terminator box set, that's enough right there.
Yeah, you know how much profit there is?
That's at least $3 million.
Oh my god. So like I remember when the metal Terminators came out and I thought they looked kind of dumb. And Sean was like, we got to get these Terminators. Let's go halvesies on them. And so we were at the Fairfax Games Workshop. And so we went halvesies on a box of metal Terminators and got those. And then when I was working at Games Workshop in trade sales, they came out with the plastic Terminators for the first time. And everybody was freaking out about the price and whatnot. And so now we're full circle back to the new re-release of the even bigger Terminators. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to those because I loved I love the metal ones, and I love what they did in the game. They were the epitome of these like walking tanks, and fell in love with the assault cannon and whatnot. Like, so I've always been an assault cannon fan. So I'm actually very excited about the new Terminators and how big they are and whatnot.
I remember the pricing complaints when it's like that box set is $25.
What
the heck? Now I'm like $25. That doesn't even buy you a box of dice.
Yeah, that'll get me some paint, maybe like 3 of them.
Yeah, it'll get you 4 paints. I mean, it's economies of scale and inflation, right? But at the same time, it's like I look back on it, it's like price schmice. You pay for the fun that you get out of it. I mean,
but back in the day, they're
the fun you get out of it. Oh, come on.
No, but I mean, back then when we were buying the miniatures, I mean, their focus at that point was a market of people who didn't have a lot of money. At this point, we're all much farther along in life.
Yeah.
Plunking down a few bucks for a box of miniatures. Well, plunking down a few bucks for a box of miniatures made by anybody other than Games Workshop, no big deal. For Games Workshop, you got to budget that, Yeah,
you're still thinking about it. You're like, ooh, a new army. What new army do I want to play?
No one's inexpensive when it comes to miniatures anymore. I play other miniatures games. They're all. It's an investment hobby. You got to have some money to play it. You really do.
But for those of you out there that are not part of the Warhammer hobby and lack the ability to paint like I do, I would highly recommend the books because the books are a great way to get in the hobby and still have something to complain about.
Yeah. See, I like,
and that's what really matters. That's what really brings us all together.
It is
complaining about what they're doing wrong. You're doing it wrong.
As someone who can paint, can sculpt, and all that stuff, I still prefer the books rather than playing the game. I love the visual part of the story. I love the literary part of the story. I love the universe itself, the setting, the sandbox.
Mm-hmm.
I don't dig doing the actual game anymore against 12-year-olds and all that crap. But I dig the storyline, and so things like the lion coming back and all that. I love that they're moving this stuff along. You know how long I've waited for the story to actually have something happen. It feels like 40,000 years that I've been waiting for something to happen. I got so tired of the same thing over and over and over again. And that didn't happen until they had the big upheaval at the company. And freed up some creative license to be able to do this stuff. That just amazes me that they're finally doing that.
I like that you are hopeful that the lion is going to shift the story somehow. That's going to move the needle. He's going to come back, and the Emperor's going to thwart him, and the needle's going to stay exactly where it is, as humanity's on a crash course to hell.
Bring it up.
Emperor comes out and just stops it all.
Mark, bring it up. You're missing your chance. Bring it up. There you go. Yes.
I heard heresy.
Correct.
So I think that's great. I can't wait for the novel. By the way, I've been reading because I've read all the other stuff. I read a few of the Warhammer or listened to a few of the Warhammer horror stories, Kelly. A few of the other ones.
It's early days.
I finished up 1,000 Suns and I thoroughly enjoyed that. And then I've started on Prospero Burns.
Yeah.
And I was on this high after 1,000 Suns, and I was really looking forward to Prospero Burns, but it's apparently the same story, mostly told from the Space
Right.
Wolf side. And mentally, I wasn't quite prepared for that. You know what I mean? Like, and so it has taken me a while to be like, oh, okay, let me shift my gears, and we're doing that. You know, it's a good story, and I'm enjoying it. But
it's like Mark's reading a book about the Swedish chef now.
yeah.
Well,
Like,
I mean, but
this
Mark's
was not what I
partial
was
to the
expecting.
Thousand Sons. So Mark's partial to the Thousand Sons. So he
Everybody
had
named
sympathy for their.
Yeah,
Mark
true,
has sympathy for the Thousand Sons, and then he hear, you know, the Space Wolves come in, and they're like, "Well, we're just going to wreck everything that you've ever thought about." And I can see where that would be kind of a very jarring.
Yeah, it is.
change
But
of
I also
focus.
really am enjoying seeing the same events from a couple of different points of view.
I told you it was good.
Yeah, you know, so like I said, those are good. And as soon as I finish that one, I'm going to jump back onto the Siege of Terra series.
Well, it's seeing it from different points of view, and then there's a book by John French where he's got, you know, like 8,000 different storylines going on, and at that point, I would kill for like, let's narrow this down to 2 storylines.
Yeah.
A story, B story.
Right, exactly. He's gone through the whole alphabet. I mean, by the
Maybe
time
throw
I
a
was
love
done with,
interest in there. I'm okay.
Yeah, there's
with
a lot. Yeah.
by the
There's
time
a
I
lot
was
of
done with
outlines.
Mortis, I was tired.
Yep. Mortis is very good, and I think I do like the countdown aspect of it, like as you're progressing through the book. It does have a lot of plot lines. It was definitely one of those ones where they're trying to tie a lot of things in to get ready for the big push to the end. You know?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you're literally tying together the story of 50 plus novels. You know what I mean? So like, I understand that intellectually. I haven't read the book yet, but I
they
can
could have
see
just tied it together by the Emperor coming back and apologizing for screwing it all up.
Yeah, sorry guys, my bad.
And Kelly was in an email. Kelly's like, you know, there's a lot of Titans in this. I said, what was your hint that it was going to be about Titans?
Why would there be Titans in this?
No. I mean, I don't have a problem with the Titans. Here's my concern with the Titans. Why did they wait till then to bring them out? I mean, there's all these other things going on, and you're like, we're going to lose this spaceport, and we're, you know, this catastrophic thing is going to happen, and Rogel Dorn's butthole is puckering up, and then we're like, oh, let's send out the Titans. And I'm like, huh?
Do you want to save this for a whole episode? Because there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, I don't think we started off.
No, but it seemed to me like we've gone through an extravagant plan to assassinate a receptionist and storm the lab to get the special thing, and then somebody says they can turn invisible and fly, and I'm like,
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, it actually happened in one of our role-playing sessions. we were literally ready to conduct this intricate plan, including like killing somebody as a diversion to draw security away. And one of the guys is looking at his character sheet, and he's like, "Wait a second, I can turn invisible and fly." Like, what? You shouldn't have mentioned that like 20 minutes ago. I'm about to kill a secretary.
And to bring it all back to the start, that sounds just like Star Wars. Sounds just like Force Awakens. It's like,
but here's what I'm going to say though. Like, our conversation has been engaging and animated for all the 40K stuff, and all the Star Wars stuff was like. You know what I mean? And I can tell already we are much more excited and engaged and interested in what's happening on the 40K side.
Absolutely.
And Star Wars is losing that. And I've been a 40K fan almost as long. You know what I mean? Like they both came out back in the day. Star Wars is a little bit older, but you know. Take that for what you will, but I'm very excited about 40K. I do like the game. You know, like I said, I seem to play every 2 or 3 editions. Like I play the game. I've never played a game of the current edition. I have some figures. I have the rules. I'll paint some figures and stuff, but I don't play very often. But the new edition has got me like, yeah, I think I would like to play some more. That would be fun. So
I haven't played since the early 2000s.
Okay, and I have been doing the Warhammer 40K Commander decks. We really enjoy those. So
for Magic the Gathering,
yeah, for Magic the Gathering, those are they've got some good flavor.
Now I'm waiting for the new Space Marine game. Space Marine.
Oh, looking forward to that.
A new video game. Yes, me too.
And
maybe we'll live stream it on this channel.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Do we know when that's supposed to drop? Have they announced
this
that?
Year.
Tomorrow.
This year, I believe. Yeah.
Well, the big release is usually in like November. It comes out right before Christmas. Is usually the big video game. If it's going to be a big release, that's when they drop them.
Because Blood Bowl 3 got delayed for almost a long time, a year.
Oh no!
Well, I like it, but you know, but Space Marine does. I have to say, you know, I only dabbled in the first game. This second one looks pretty good, and 4-player multiplayer sounds good.
Yeah, we used to have some fun in that one. Yeah, 4-game multiplayer would be awesome.
Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Is
And
that a known quantity for this?
Yes.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
it's gonna be at least 4.
Where are we going to find 4 40K plans that fans that want to play that? I wonder.
I don't know. Maybe Dan will. Play.
Yeah, maybe Dan.
And there
Maybe
could
if
be
Paul's wife's out of town,
Rich said
he'll
he
get on for a little
he
bit.
got internet, right? He finally got that out.
Russ? Yeah, Russ has
Russ,
I think
Russ.
DSL out. Our friend Russ lives out in the boonies, so he's not had some high speed internet for
He's even more
years
on the
now.
list
Yeah, I'm going to see him later today, so I'll ask him about that.
Yeah,
See
that
what
would
his
be
internet
cool.
situation is.
So, all right. Well, I think what we can conclude from this is 3 things. 1, Star Wars is bordering on, if not bordering on. Sometimes it treads into either side. Boring versus interesting. Okay. And very, very much in danger of just going right off the cliff. And we're hoping, praying that this will be some sort of possible reset, maybe, but probably not.
Take note, Disney.
Whereas
we're all available for contract.
Whereas, yeah, no, not not unless they change all the executives.
Yes.
Otherwise, it'd be the same.
I'm available to be an executive.
Me too. Yes, me too.
Yeah,
Put
I'll
us in
take
charge.
Kathleen's job if you
Well,
offer me enough money.
You notice that's what's interesting is that now that's become the thing.
Mhm.
They have someone who's not traditionally an executive, James Gunn
Yes.
or Henry Cavill, who is
Yeah.
heading up, the creative parts or aspects of,
Mhm.
as opposed to like Kathleen Kennedy, that kind of thing. So that's interesting, I thought. Second thing we learned is that 40K is interesting and fun and deadly and rough and visceral and gruesome and gory and Nurgle-like with all its snot and everything in salt
And
all that.
Ichor, demonic Ichor.
Yeah,
yes,
ruinous
yes.
Ichor.
I'm reading, by the way, Shadow Sun, which is a book about the
Tau.
commander Shadow Sun of the Tau, who
Yep.
it's about them, the Tau, experiencing chaos, and trying to figure out what the hell is this, that
Chaos Tau. That could be a fun army.
Yes, I discovered last week, there's something I didn't know, that the Tau actually have a very weak presence in the warp, and that Calexis assassins actually affect them. I did not know that. So
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting.
I could see Korn coming in, getting a bunch of town. He's like, these guys are terrible. They're no good at any combat.
Well, that's exactly what they are. It's like they're ignored because they
This
don't
didn't work
provide
out
enough-
at all like I
they don't provide
expected
enough
it.
sustenance.
a bunch of Tau up there slap fighting.
Blood for the blood guy.
The worst ever civil war ever in all of the galaxy. Not because of bloodshed, just because it was so dumb.
That's right. Our population actually went up during this war.
It's true.
And the third thing that I think we can all agree on is that the one universe that if the Indomitus, remember we were talking about going to kill the Gungans and all that, the one universe where that would be accepted with open arms by any such 40K crusade would have been Mad Max Fury Road.
True.
They'd show up and
Very
it would
true.
immediately become a recruitment planet.
Yes. Absolutely. That world is prime for fuel for the Imperial War Machine.
Think about that.
Definitely.
All those war boys.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they would have. And I'll tell you what. There's an idea for a chapter. Yeah.
Yep.
A brand new
Absolutely.
chapter. Yeah.
Yep.
The war boys. That's
Just
right.
just take the war boys and make them for the Emperor, and they're good to go.
With their weird version of the Imperial Creed, including all chrome and going to Valhalla. And...
Oh, that movie's so good. That's something we can have an episode on. I love that movie. It's so
I know.
good.
I love that movie too. They're currently filming the prequel, Furiosa, with
Furiosa.
Was it Anna Taylor-Joy, who I think has a really good look for a young. Yeah, it is. She's playing the younger Furiosa.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to that. Like I say, that movie was one of those ones that I wouldn't say it came out of nowhere, but man, to take the older movies and really do them justice in kind of the newer setting, and that is one of my all-time. It's one of my top 10.
Think about it like this: if you're gonna think about having any sort of hope for your favorite genre or whatever it is. That's an example of one where just swinging and swinging until they get a hit.
Yep.
He's another one like that. First Mad Max, you know,
Okay.
all right. I mean, for the time, all right, you know.
It was late 70s, right?
Right. My sister Tammy loved it, but that's because of Mel Gibson, right? Now, the second one, Road Warrior, that was a home run. Run. Yeah. So much so that, of course, talking about South Park, remember, you know, they had who was Butters up there or somebody who was doing Humongous, remember?
Yeah,
He's got a good voice, you know, that whole thing. And but then you have Thunderdome, which is just laden, I guess you could say, well, it was successful for the quotes and memes and, you know, all that about the stupid ideas. Who runs Barter Town?
I like Thunderdome, but it's definitely not first place.
It is
Yeah,
not.
it's a little campy. Yeah,
it's more where you go for joke, you know, telling, that kind of, you know, corny over the top stuff. And then very long dry spell. And then suddenly out of nowhere, you get Fury Road, you know, another home run, you know. So let that.
But that's a case of the original director just loving a project and forcing it to fruition, because that failed. They had shot the movie, and I think they had to reshoot the whole movie because it was.
But don't forget, he made Mad Max. He made Thunderdome as well. I'm just saying, you know, as long as you let him keep swinging and doing his thing, you know. Sometimes I don't know, whatever analogy you want. He knocks a diamond in the whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So every now and again. So anyway, those are the three things. Star Wars sucks. 40K is good. And Furious is a homeworld. I don't know.
That's right. And everything could be made better by sprinkling in a little bit of Mad Max.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Truth.
So, all right, guys. Well, thank you very much. And I will see you next time.
All right, bye.
Bye. Get out.
This concludes our Speak Nerd and Enter broadcast.